Thank you for joining. My name is Ilya, as you know, and I have been the face of 2gnoMe in Idaho over the past couple of years. And so the goal of today's call is simple. It's to answer your questions about this end of the year summative process and walk you through how it all rolls together with a CLDS report that you have to generate. And if you like to follow along in your own portal, just pick a teacher you're working with. Now is probably the best time to do that. We are starting on the evaluation page, and really the first thing that I'd love for you to notice, just as a way of overview. So if I click and I create a new formal, at the top there's a role drop down. Idaho portals have up to 15 different roles. These are teachers and all of the non-instructional certified staff. Each role has its own framework with its own domains, its own skills. And so, if you have access to these roles, you can give feedback to everyone. And then right next to it, right below it, rather, is the type drop down. And this one matters. For today, we need to set it to summative. Not only because that's what we're doing but also because the summative type unlocks certain fields and features in the form that a classroom observation doesn't show. And so the CLDS required fields, for example, only appear when this type is equal to summative evaluation. So at this point, we have a teacher framework in front of us, and this is the Idaho required Danielson 2013 version with 4 domains and 22 components. And so for each component, you have 4 little icons. So for each component, right, you have 4 little icons that I'd love to go through and walk you through. The first icon is this little bell icon, and that's the history of all the informal observations tagged to this component. So obviously they may be more than 1, more than 10, and they all are here within that date range. The looping icon is the historical result from previous classroom observations and summatives. So it's an easy way to eyeball what happened in the past over time. And then the checklist, and that's your rubric indicators. That's where you kind of build through observations from your point of view, from the point of view of your coaches or other administrators that are part of the process. And so you can click specific behaviors. You can add artifacts of learning. You can add evidence as text. And then also, for example, if you're done with this, right now we're in 1A, it's already tagged to 1A, and you want to just quickly jump to, let's say, 1E, the system will prompt you to save it and immediately take you there, saving you a couple of clicks. So you can quickly just go and be done with the observation. Okay, so then the plus icon. The plus icon, that just opens a clean observation where you can type your own text and codify it later. And you can also tag it to any components, either now or later, come back to it later, right? So it can follow some kind of a template that is relevant to your district. It's some kind of a walkthrough, a pre and post observation. These are administrative facing opportunities to capture additional notes and tag them to the components. If you can imagine a situation where maybe it's a peer-to-peer mentorship, or maybe it's a coach who's not involved in an admin summative role, but is an admin from the standpoint of notes, it's best if they work through this form, capture their notes, tag it to the relevant components, and all of that builds towards your picture as you work through your classroom or summative. Just to reiterate, the tagging is what makes everything work. As you save your observations, they get organized and added under this little bell icon so you can see the progress over time as ultimately you come to this drop-down menu and the ratings happen here, of course. right? These component by component, the historical data is already in front of you. So you're using the rubric's own language to make your call. So no other tabs, no separate documents. You can focus on any particular domain and kind of just do that, but probably if it's a summative, you will add them all the 22 components. We are adding a functionality where you'd be able to say, you know what, give me an average rating based on my classroom observation ratings. And so the system will be able to pre-populate it subject to your review. That's why it needs at least two classroom observations, and that's why it only applies to the summative. The idea right now is that it will take only those that are classroom observation types. In a sense, the informals, I'm going to click on the bell icon now. The informals are the ones that are ultimately feeding into the formal rating. And the formal
Oh,
rating itself can either be a classroom or a summative. And so there's a distinction that, okay, you can have these kinds of classroom observation ratings that then the system can just sort of help an average into a summative, subject to your approval and, of course, ability to override. So that's kind of we go through the process of viewing the historical information, just to summarize, both in terms of informal observations and formal rankings from the past, and then ability to add additional observations and content and evidence leading to the to being better informed to create this kind of rating. Having done that, we scroll down and then we get to the piece that saves you probably, well, a lot of time. I don't know if it's the most, but I'd love your feedback if you've already tried it. This AI overall summary. So if you click on the pencil icon, before it even starts drafting anything, it'll first check against an evidence threshold. If there like isn't enough evidence yet, it'll tell you. And then otherwise it just goes ahead and starts drafting the narrative. So a couple of things to know about how this draft is built. The AI doesn't evaluate, it just is drafts in a way that like a thoughtful coach would. Every draft is clear and plain language. It's consistent with the Danielson framework, and it's actually grounded in the evidence you've been collecting all year. Those everything that appears under the those bell icons. So this, of course, includes the comments, the ratings, the behaviors, like the real moments, not just generic phrases. The goal what it does is it surfaces the patterns across observations and names specific strengths and in one or two of those areas for growth. And it closes with a short and personal message to the teacher. Have you tried it yourselves in your practice
yeah.
already?
I used it on every one of my formal evaluations.
So I take it, you like it. You sort of it
Yeah, I
passes your
really like
filter.
it. Yeah.
Do you do a lot of editing, any kind of additional?
Um, I would say I add 15%. 85% of it's super accurate because it's stamping when, so it identifies strengths, etc. And then it plugs those right into the language. And so it gives examples or citations of those strengths. The only thing I think I edit pretty consistently is the next check in and student impact. Those two are kind of not hitting the mark. And so, and then I add quite a bit to the message to the teacher just to personalize it. But other than that, I'm telling you what would have taken me, 30 minutes to write, this does it in 30 seconds. And then I take a few minutes and add on to it, edit it, put it in the feedback, and then I'm done.
Well, good. That's good to hear. I'd love to double click into like your examples of student impact and next check-in. Yeah, it's just about providing good prompt and
Right.
instructions, and that's an opportunity to learn. But we've heard similar feedback, and really happy about that. By the way, you can keep speaking to it and ask additional questions. Like you can say, "Oh, show me the evidence over time aligned to component 3B." and it'll just give you from all of your observations, it'll just give you like a table of who said what when to support that conversation with the teacher. You can also say, build me a conversation guide from this. So you can regenerate it as needed. And over time, the engine really learns your signature. But the bigger point is that AI, the way this is prompted is that AI doesn't judge, it supports your judgment. And that's the biggest kind of conceptual thing. Again, because we are, and specifically because we're in a summative evaluation, that type being the summative evaluation, you now have these additional fields, right? These are the ones that feed into the CLDS report. And so including the required student achievement score. By default, this score, let's say 90, counts as 30% to the overall user result. The remaining 70% comes from this summative evaluation. And sometimes it can be 80-20. It really sort of depends on your own individual decision, and you can adjust this in settings. And if we have time, we'll do that later. Okay. When you save, you can ask teachers to acknowledge the receipt, so that it's kind of like a mini version of an e-signature. But it will be captured in the overall printout. You can, of course, share it with a teacher and send it right to their own feedback page, importantly. And then this is a recent option by popular demand, and that is it will help focus only on your observations, not from anyone else, no details and component level commentary from other administrators or principals. So this is really useful when you have a private kind of one-on-one record. Okay, so I don't really need
Ilya,
that.
has there ever been any discussion about when you click that share with participating learner that they'll get an email as well?
They absolutely get an email.
They do get an email?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
And if something happens, if by chance they don't see that email, or they say that they didn't see it, couple of things. Definitely tell us. Check if it's maybe goes into a junk folder, depending on your firewall settings. And then also in the system, there's a really clear way to even know which emails went out to each person when. So that kind of forensic email log, you can always see like, oh, did the email actually fail, or do we actually have a record of it? So therefore, it's somewhere in the teacher's mailbox.
Okay.
So I'm going to save it and continue. And then once it's saved, since we shared it, it basically says, listen, if we're sharing this overall feedback, do we want to also share individual informal observations? And the answer is in this case, yes, but the teacher will not get inundated with email. The teacher will only get one email, right? And then also this screen that you're seeing, it also is relevant only to summatives. This is where at the domain level, you can overwrite results before you save it. So the system will pre-calculate the averages, but then you have the wisdom and the final say. Okay, so now we've saved it. And what I want to show you is kind of the next thing is ability to print as a PDF, or ability to kind of save it in a different folder, or just the new distinction that I wanted to make is that you have the full report and you have the observation only report. So the full, and the difference between the two is important to distinguish once, so you can take advantage of it. So in the full report, the system will display the full rubric with all of its behaviors and indicators, and it'll show you where my administrator identified my behaviors, and etc. But it'll show it to you in context to everything else. And in the observed report, you will only see whatever was checked off.
Question for you.
Yes.
Is there a way on the full report or observed report to add a signature line? Because we like to have our teacher sign that they saw it, but
I
we're
agree.
not.
Like when we meet with them, because we sit down and go through this with them. We just wish there was some line on there that they could sign that they've received the copy in person.
Yes. Yes. That's all I'm asking for too.
Oh, you literally need like a line for a signature.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yes.
see. Oh, I see. I see.
Literally
Interesting.
need that line. Yes.
Okay, okay, gotcha. I understand now. Perfect. Okay. It'll be added very, very quickly.
Perfect.
Okay. So, and then again, it's a signature line and it has full name, today's date. Like, what other things are important to you?
If you could have the administrator as well, signature line, because really all we're trying to demonstrate is create an artifact that we have provided this, they've received it on this date, because there's some time restrictions on when they can appeal or grieve that.
Understood.
And so we just want to have that date stamped that said, okay, this is when I gave it to you, this date, and that's when the clock starts.
Okay. Thank you for this feedback. So I just wanted to also go back to having that kind of drawing that distinction between having the full report and having the report that only signature notwithstanding only shows the specific, behaviors or attributes that were checked off, not within the context to a broader framework. The abridged view, I guess, is more of a paper trail version, and the full view it takes more space, but it's more of a coaching conversation document, more of a kind of North Star version. Okay. Any questions before I move to the next section to the CLDS? Sort of away from capturing the summative feedback and that workflow and process, and more towards the overall summary and the compliance piece. This overall summary view pulls everything together for the teacher. So let's say this is me right now, and so it's looking at the two forms, and in the case of Idaho, it's the IPLP and the student achievement form. It's looking at the two classroom observations and one summative, and then you can print reports from here. So everything really is in one place. As I mentioned before, we have this 70 kind of 30 split, and the way that's controlled by you, by a super admin, is in your settings. The overall results section has your weight, and now it's like at 70% on the evaluation side and 30% on the achievement side. And you can edit it to 80/20 or to any other results. It's really kind of your district decision. And then one note specifically with Idaho, the CLDS requires integers, so no decimal weights. And this compliance reporting is already set up for the Idaho expectations. So, for most LEAs, you don't even have to touch them, but it's always a district decision. So if you do want to adjust them, you would do that here in this setting. Okay. Back to the overall summary. Now let's actually focus on the CLDS. This is the part that saves you at sort of that moment in June a lot of time. If you're a super admin, if you own this portal, then you'll see the CLDS button, and it's only reserved for super admins, not for administrators like principals or coaches or other types of admins. So I'm going to click it now. And I think in this example, we have over 700 teachers. So what it does is before it even generates anything, the system will run an interim check. It scans every record and flags what's missing, like missing IDs or missing student achievement scores, everything within the context of what's required, specifically required by Idaho, template. And so you'll see it all in one screen, and you can also pinpoint exactly what to fix before you send anything to the state. Once it completes the check, it'll actually generate the CSV file that you can click, and then you'll be able to click the export button, and that will generate the CSV file. And that's the file that you upload directly into the state system, and that's really the moment that saves so many hours in June.
Once you export it, where does it go? I click export.
Okay,
Should there be a box that pops up?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. There will be a link. There will be a link that you will click and it'll download the report, because we are legally not allowed to email you this report. Therefore, it will generate a link right next.
I know that I couldn't tell you who they are.
Like here. This, you see where it says last saved?
Oh, have tried it a few times, but I never could find like where this was gonna download to. But now that I see it, And I've ran the report. Yes, I have ran the report, but it's pulling up like you're in my report, and then a staff member from last year's in my report, and some of my staff IDs are not in the report. So I'm some school
That,
IDs. So that must be when I created the staff member, I didn't put that in correctly.
that may be the case. So that's kind of like the purpose of that initial checklist that will show you that a certain ID is missing, and then you can quickly edit it.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it saves me a little bit of time. I just need to go in and edit those people's staff IDs.
Exactly, and it'll tell you like which person is missing what information again, so you're a little bit more pinpointed in that. But
So real
okay,
quick, can I ask a question? We talked a couple weeks ago about the ability for me to be able to upload stuff into their profile.
yeah.
That is that done, or is that a no, not gonna happen?
Oh, it's done. It's done. We sent an email out about that, but yeah, totally listen to you. So so get this, you have this add new. So you're an administrator and you are in the portfolio page of your portal, administrative portal, and you have this add new button option next to the teacher's name. And so now you're the one who can do the uploading, and then you can tag it to a particular domain of the framework and so on. And then so once you add it, then the teacher will see it in their portfolio and clearly mark that you were the one who added it.
So what if I don't have that add new next to their name?
That would be an anomaly. Yeah, you want to go into so mouse over learning
And
and then go to
portfolio.
portfolio.
Sweet, okay. I'm good with questions then.
So let's put up this landing page and I guess just in terms of the teacher evaluations for next year, let me just update you through what we know so far, and you can start thinking about your rollout, before August or July. So things that you're familiar with that haven't changed, the Danielson rubric that you already used, the way observations work, the AI, overall summative, the CLDS expert, all of that kind of stays with us. If anything gets updated on the framework side, then we'll have the portal configured for whatever the state finalizes before you need it. And so basically what it means is that if the budget gets approved, then nothing changes from your end. Your costs are covered like they are today. And if it doesn't get approved, then we as 2gnoMe, we've made a commitment to stay at the state negotiated rate of $15 per teacher per year. So that's a little more than $1 per month. And so we'll reach out to each of the over 70 Idaho LEAs that we're working with, and we'll continue at that rate. And this would be the extension for 3 years. And of course, it'll be up to you to opt into that at that point. So either way, the platform isn't going anywhere on you. And the most important thing, then I guess that's really the most important thing that I can say.
I appreciate the information. That helps.
Yeah. Thanks, Elia.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that's really kind of, that's my update. And let me know if I'd love to spend the rest of the time answering your questions, and just tell me if there's anything else on your mind.
Oh, yeah, I've got a question about that overall summary report. I noticed that a few of my staff don't have some information in them. I'm going back to participants to see where I can add like their EDU ID. I'm not
Yeah,
seeing where I add that staff information.
no problem. I'll show you in a minute. Let me just turn off the recording.